We are in some very dangerous and unprecedented times right now, and the media doesn't help. And I'm talking about the mainstream media. Hopefully, I will be your alternative voice to the mainstream media. I will tell you as I think it is, as a professional, a business person, and also as a British citizen. And I'll tell you exactly what I think. So please do subscribe. We are here on Black Belt Barrister Off the Record. And so let's get into this here. So I was asked yesterday how normal or abnormal it is for a very serious case, like a rape case, to take several years to get to court. And I was quite ashamed to say that it is quite normal that it will take several years on average for many of these cases. And for example, I only have to open up the news and within 2 minutes I'll find an example. A Worcester man actually speaking through an interpreter, this Romanian stands accused of raping a young girl under 13 years old twice and 3 counts of assault of a girl under 13 by touching. He's been released on bail, and this is due to go to trial in 2027. So obviously this is now going to take a long time, years to get to court, and he's released on bail. And this is the situation that we're in. I don't know what else to say. This is, as I posted on X earlier on, this is how to spot a broken system. This is not a justice system that takes so many years for these cases to get to court. This is fairly normal. And I was fairly ashamed to say that. And, you know, as a barrister, I don't do, any criminal work anymore, really, apart from the odd few bits of advice that I will do here and there with how the police have acted and, in my view, sometimes abused powers and so on. I've done 1 or 2 pro bono assistant work just recently. I've talked about those on my main channel. Do go and check those out. And also, do me a favor, there is one video I do want you to watch. I will link it below. I think on Windows, if you click Control and hit the link, it will open in a new tab. On a Mac, if you hit Command, the command button next to the space bar, hold that and press the link, it will open in a new tab. Please go watch that afterwards. There's something that I sort of skimmed over it in that video. I was talking about what I think of as a loophole that migrants use to stay in the UK, and they use the family courts to do it, in my view, and my experience, actually, because this is exactly what I discovered. So go watch that video. It's eye-opening. It's towards the second half of the video. Please do go and watch that after this one. But yes, I was asked how normal it is that it takes years for these cases to get to court. And this case that I've just mentioned now, it will be in court on the 7th of June, 2027. So this is the genuine situation that we're in right now. And that is not even to come to mention the horrific attack in the synagogue in Manchester today on what is supposed to be a loving and peaceful holy day where they share love and forgiveness. It's such an atrocious attack. And whilst it's not yet confirmed and it's not yet announced what the motive is or anything else, it has been declared a terrorist incident, and the BBC is quite heavily leaning into the far-right narrative already, which I think is quite disgraceful, really, because they are quite heavily leaning into that. They do then say, well, there is also the extreme Islamist approach that is worrying people, but a heavy focus on the so-called far-right. They say, and I quote, especially against the recent backdrop, and I presume they mean, the recent Unite the Kingdom rally and all such. I will save my views about that because I have strong views about that. I will save those for another video. But what a horrific attack. It's unbelievable. But what I can tell you is how concerned I am generally for the state of the UK, because once more, we have to look at statistics and the statistical risk. We have confirmed that we have terrorists coming into the UK, not just by small boats necessarily, but potentially through other routes as well, where they either may not be able to vet them at all, or if they can vet them, they can't vet them properly. And there must be countless thousands of individuals on the security services watch lists, and they cannot evidently prevent every attack. That is too much to ask. The countless hundreds, if not thousands of attacks that they prevent, we are indebted to them for. And we are indebted to the police, and all credit to the police services. And I understand there was an SAS helicopter within minutes as well to prevent this being even worse than it was. But looking at those statistics, there's a lot of focus on, I say, the small boats. You've probably seen the pictures of the super dinghy, which had over 100 people. I think 107 is the figure that I read. And if we look at the recent statistics, I'll take a screenshot now so you can see it. I'll put it on screen. And the sheer numbers of illegal migrants coming across about whom we know nothing, and may well be a statistical risk of being a terrorist. 895 on the 27th of September, 403, 70, 531, 138, because we've seen better weather. Now, whilst politicians, ministers say they will do everything in their power to stop it, clearly it's not the case. At the very least, it needs to be tackled from a legal standpoint of disapplying or completely repealing any power of ECHR and putting in place some other mechanism, or at the very least disapplying it, so that we can set about preventing and removing and returning, not just for one in, one out, but all of them back to France, because France is a safe country, and if they came from France, that should be where they go back to, at least unless they are properly analysed before they come here as to being a genuine asylum seeker seeking refuge from a war-torn country. But even then, if they came from France, that argument falls away. And so with the sheer numbers of migrants coming across, that is quite clearly a statistical risk. And it is a risk nightmare for the security services to deal with. And evidently, it is not something that they can prevent on every occasion. And large chunks of the mainstream media and speeches by Keir Starmer is incredibly unhelpful, repeatedly referring to groups and far right as being racist and sowing hate and division and so on. And the irony is, even throwing out the words that this is sowing hate and division and so on, itself is sowing hate and division, because it is dividing groups of people. Just by saying this group is sowing hate and division is going to sow a divide between those groups and everybody else. And therefore it is sowing hate and division. It is giving rise to tensions in society. And that very irony, I won't play it for you, but one speech at the Labour conference by Keir Starmer, when he makes comments essentially saying that if those who support Nigel Farage and reforms policies and what he sees as racist policies, if you support those things, then he said, we will fight you. Someone on X said that sounded like he was sort of declaring war on the people of the UK. This is very inflammatory language, which obviously, albeit at a Labour conference, it's got the buzz of the conference there. They've probably, some of you might not know this, but at places like that, they usually have someone in front telling people now's the time to clap, so they all clap and cheer. Not all of it is always genuine. So, they have seat fillers, for example, so it looks like a full stadium when otherwise it may not be. And they have people jeering the crowd on to clap and cheer. So there's such an atmosphere there, and when these comments are so divisive and hateful and inflammatory, that cannot be positive for the general feeling around the country. And I comment on these things, and some people do say to me that just by commenting on this and observing it is also negative and not a positive thing. But I have to speak out about these things, and particularly, I don't like to bash the police. I do support the police. I send the police officers, senior police officers, emails to say, please pass on my support to your officers. They are clearly under stress here. And, you know, whilst it is right, and they accept that it is right, that police actions are challenged and they're held accountable, they do still have a difficult job to do. And so we have to maintain that. And I really believe in that. We have to support these officers, and we have to support the services that support us as a nation, particularly the unsung heroes in the security services. If you're watching, anyone in the security services, which you probably are, you have my sincere gratitude. And I'm sure, let me know in the comments below, so anyone that is watching, because they are all real people, they work real jobs, they work in buildings that you may not know exist, and they do jobs you may not know exist, and they do a lot of work which you certainly don't see going on. Believe me, because I've spoken to people, let's say, who are familiar with what happens, and I understand that the level of work and complexity that goes into the security services. So if any of you in the security services are watching, I thank you personally, and I'm sure everyone in the comment section below will as well. If anyone wants to ever get in touch with me in full confidence, you have my confidence as a barrister, and I will maintain that. If you want to ask me anything or discuss anything, I am open to that, and of course would never put anybody in any kind of danger for doing that. But we are in dangerous times here, and I think the language and certainly a lot of it from the media is dangerous and inflammatory. But these are just my thoughts where we're at the moment. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do go and watch the video that I mentioned at the beginning. It's linked below. Go and watch that. I will talk more about that because I was asked about it, and I commented on it very flippantly because it was just something that I mentioned in passing, really, because it's absolutely true. It was an observation that I made, and it's absolutely true. But I think I will go into more detail about that, because there are doubtless lots of these little loopholes. When I really think about them, there are lots of these little loopholes that they are using to ultimately stay in the UK. They might, I think many of them come here on false pretenses as a student or for work. And I think many of them do it under those false pretenses. They're not all false pretenses, but I am quite sure some of them come here under false pretenses and end up staying here. Those are just my thoughts, my genuine experience in practice, and I've seen it firsthand. I've seen the sort of the wry smile, the smug grin when I press for the real reasons, and I'm cross-examining somebody as to the real reasons that they are here and they want these orders. Go watch that video. You'll see what I mean. And in the meantime, do drop your thanks to our services in the comments section below. Despite the horrific attack today, they do, believe me, they do foil countless attacks that you couldn't possibly understand, or I could possibly understand, because we never hear about them, we don't know about them. But I think it is time to express our gratitude to them for that. So my thoughts with anyone affected by this, anyone who's terrified by these attacks, it is horrific, it's horrendous, and we hear you. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.